Thank you very much for joining us today for our virtual fireside chat with the CEO of TVH GemOne, Patrick Smets, and the COO, Lynn who's calling in from the US this morning. We're also joined by Justin Wheatley, Director of Lead to Ledger at PhiX Technologies, which was the Salesforce partner who implemented TVH GemOne's Revenue Cloud solution. I'm Jamie Trigg from the Salesforce Quote to Cash team. And for the next 45 minutes or so, I'm going to be your host. And as we go, if you've got any questions throughout the session at all, please just pop them into the chat and we'll pick them up as we go or at the end. So perhaps a good place to start here is in terms of introductions on TVH GemOne, perhaps over to you, Patrick. Could you tell us a little bit more about TVH GemOne, who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So GemOne is a global scale-up which uses telematic solutions to help customers unleash the full potential of their fleets. GemOne was founded in 2012, and we are actually today we are a subsidiary of TVH Parts. TVH Parts is a global one-stop shop for parts and accessories for material handling, industrial and agriculture equipment. What does GemOne as? So we are combining 10 years of our experience in telematics with the 50 years of experience that actually TVH has as a global firm in this industry. And so we can actually provide a unique solution and services to our customers in the form of efficiency for their fleets, safety, and better maintenance scheduling for their fleets. And so for our global operations, we can lean on the knowledge and the experience of our mother company, TVH, which actually allowed us to scale fast our sales and which also makes us very relevant because of the deep industry knowledge that TVH has. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. And I think one of the things that I love about this story as well is, it's TVH, of course, you've got your roots so firmly in that industrial space with the forklifts, and this is bringing out a whole new area of business, right? New revenue models, new ways of working, new ways of selling. So so perhaps if we can just sort of start to dig down into that selection process and where you're at beforehand. Could you tell us a little bit about what challenges you were facing that led you on the journey to identify that you needed CRM and CPQ and billing from a CEO and a COO perspective?
Yeah, cool. So yeah, GemOne is a super fast growing scale up, and we are located globally across different regions. So we are actually present in the USA, Mexico, Brazil, Europe, Asia. And we did some mergers and acquisitions in the past. And that led to a scattered landscape of systems of different portfolio, different ways of working. Our company, and we, like I already said, we deliver solutions to our customers. So we are actually a software provider. But on the other hand, we also sell hardware, which is needed to kind of provide those solutions. So we have both hardware, software, globally scattered, different landscape, different systems. However, as GemOne, we try to, our best aim is at least to give the best customer experience ever to in this industry. And we try to do, like, for example, next day deliveries, informing our customers proactively on things that are happening and what's going on. But yeah, to be able to do that, we were not in a good shape at that time because of the intransparency and efficient processes that we had internally.
Okay, yeah. So there's challenges in place, of course, and can you tell us any more about how those challenges were impacting the business of TVH GemOne?
Yeah. So for me, yeah, it was really holding us back and scaling fast. So I mean, our ambition was to grow fast, to give super good customer experience. And we had the feeling that all the processes were not streamlined, not scalable, very manual. And then, of course, if you grow so fast, I mean, the back offices and our service lines could not keep up with the demand. So I had the feeling that we could not grow our full potential at that time. So for me, it was really limiting our growth.
Right. Okay. Yeah, of course. So when you came out and started speaking to some of the selected vendors out there, what were the key differentiators that led you around to selecting Salesforce for Sales Cloud and, of course, for Revenue Cloud? And for those who don't know, that was formerly known as Salesforce CPQ and Billing.
Yeah, Lynn, please fall in if you have other things to add. But for me, it was really like the completeness of the solution. So I had already a lot of experience in the past on different implementations of CRMs and ERPs. And I was really like searching for which kind of solution gives me the end-to-end flexibility, scalability, and enough automation. I know that's not the cheapest solution out there, but I'm quite convinced that if you choose sometimes the cheapest solution and you think like, how we are a scale-up, we don't need a super big, complex system. Let's start with a cheap one and we will grow together. But at the end, in a few years from now, you're really breaking up your processes. So it's very important if you grow fast and you scale fast that you are set up from the beginning in the correct way. Otherwise, you will need to change everything in a few years. And that will be just the years where you're scaling so fast and you have no time to change all those things. So for me, it was really about the completeness of the solution, end-to-end flexibility, scalability, and automation of a lot of stuff. And that was for me the most critical things.
And building on that, I think what was also very relevant in the selection process is our requirement for subscription-based billing, right? Because we sell a solution, so we need to be able to sell subscriptions, which often when people acquire certain numbers and later an additional number of licenses, right, need to work cumulatively. So only very few suppliers were able to provide us with this opportunity as well. That was also a very relevant marker.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of CRMs that have like, imagine you have one invoice sometimes and the hardware and sometimes a license, but then the license next month is only the license because it's recurring, and all that flexibility, you don't find that easily, or at least not in a very professional way.
Yeah, no, good points. And it's and sometimes where another solution might even appear to be cheaper, in terms of licensing, if it hasn't got those revenue methods, embedded out of the box as standard features and functionalities, you're often going to find that a lot of that cost is going to happen downstream as you start to implement the project. And then of course it's the maintenance of this as well, which starts to get more expensive if you're getting into customizations.
Yeah, and I've seen that in the past of a few companies, and it was always a regret afterwards. So, and I said, like, this time I'm not going to make that mistake, and I will do it right from the beginning.
Yeah, indeed. So, so let's actually, if we ever think about that process where you were selecting the vendor, and was there anything else that we can talk about there? How was your actual experience in terms of going through that vendor selection? Because I recall it as being, it was efficient. It was a fast experience from my point of view. I think the first time we spoke was in December last year. And I think that, then you started this project in December last year. So, how was that process?
Yeah, I think it was super smooth. So I think, I mean, from the moment we knew that we were going to do that, I think it was in October or something like that, we started scanning the market of what are all the vendors out there. We kind of quickly came to a list of what are our requirements that we need to kind of fulfill with our system. And then it was really like comparing vendor with demos, having road shows, etc., from different vendors, and then selecting the right one. And for me, it was super easy because there was only one that kind of ticked all the boxes of our requirements. And given that one of my key requirements was like the completeness of the solution, this was really the best choice we could do. Otherwise, we would always end up with a system for this and a piece of a system from that and an add-on for that. And I said, like, no, we are not going to do that. Let's go for the complete solution, and it ticks all the boxes and it stands out above all the rest on a few of our most critical things. So for me, it was actually a super straightforward process for the selection, and then we could easily go fast. I think in a few weeks' time, we went to commercial discussions towards really already talking about implementation.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So I think something which I took from our conversations then as well was that it wasn't like you had a gap in the business. It was quite the opposite. Business was accelerating. You know, you were doing new things, new launches, new regions. So I mean, how long did that whole process take?
Yeah, not long. I think it was a super speed train. Because I mean, we kind of implemented, I think, a lot of different modules of Salesforce, all in a very short time frame. So I think, like I said, in October we did the vendor selection. I think in November we had the commercial discussions already starting, detailing out the implementation. I think in December we started the implementation. I think end of January we finished at least the MVP. And then I think in February we rolled out in one country, because we said let's launch in one country to test it out before we scale it down super fast globally. And then I think in February, March we already rolled out globally. And so from October to kind of globally scale it up, that I think that's quite an achievement. I think. Yeah.
It is. It's fantastic. It is. I mean, I remember even if I go back a few years. And you think about when people were thinking about these CPQ, just a CPQ project, you know, forgetting the fact that you were also adding in the CRM and the billing in this whole joined up solution. And people used to think about that as being a long process because they were using traditional tools and lots of customization. So it just shows, you know, it's a whole new way of going about this. But I think, you know, that's one part of it was, you know, selecting what's the right solution for your business, to, you know, not just for now, but for the future to continue growing. But another key part of this puzzle then was having the right partner, an experienced partner who can help you, of course, with the implementation, but also to come along with best practice and, you know, the right guidance. So, you know, how did you go about that partner selection?
Yeah. For us, the partner was super critical because we knew we were going to do that super fast, and so finding the right partner that can do that at that speed with good quality, it's not easy to find. So for us, it was super important. So I think we talked with Salesforce. We came up with some recommendations. I talked with some people in my network, and so we kind of shortlisted 10-ish partners. But that we quickly came out with to PhiX. And why was it important for us? We wanted a partner that really understands what we do or tries to understand what we do and thinks with us. I didn't want to end up with customizing things. I really believe that this whole process should also makes GemOne better. And so my core belief is that you should not start from what we have today and then try to build a system around it. No, I wanted to kind of lean out together with the partner of like, how could the most easy and straightforward process look like? And then we will change our process internally here to make it more suitable and more straightforward. So I saw it more as an opportunity. And for me, it was really important that the partner would think with us on how to do that and what would be the best solution. And I think another part of the criteria that for me that are super important was the technical capabilities. And so given the short time frame that we needed to do the exercise, having good people that knows what they're doing is crucial because we don't have time to go back and forth. And so we were like, each meeting that we had with potential partners, I was really looking to, okay, how deep do they go in their answers? Do they stay high level, or are they really going granular, and how in deep are they in the system? And I could easily feel with PhiX that they are super hands-on and super deep into the content, while with some other partners, it was more a sales conversation at the beginning. And so, I mean, we had the best feeling with PhiX, and I don't regret the choice afterwards. So.
Excellent. And no, I remember for me, one of the very refreshing things here as well, whilst I was engaged back in December, it was as we were talking through certain processes and certain things that you wanted to do, there was an openness. It was saying, yes, this is how we have been doing it, but we don't necessarily have to continue doing it that way. What do you suggest? So there was an openness to hear, you know, our guidance as well, our best practice. What are other companies doing? What's working for them? As opposed to saying, right, you know, we're going to go down a very rigid path. So I think that openness must have helped, you know, with us, and then continued with PhiX. So in fact, we've got Justin here, of course, Justin Wheatley at PhiX Technologies. So maybe if we just sort of move on to that next stage in your process, and you know, you selected Salesforce for the software, you'd selected PhiX Technologies as your implementation partner. But can you tell me a bit more about what was the process from there on, Justin?
Yeah, sure. So Patrick and Lynn talk about this speeding train. So we jumped aboard that speeding train, hanging on for dear life. But no, so basically when you engage with a partner, and Patrick said about he liked the way we engaged, the conversations we had were very kind of open, very deep. And as a partner, you do need to guide customers into trying to follow that best practice, buy, not build mentality, and trying to get the best out of the platform without all of those building in that technical debt to fix a problem today, which could be a massive problem in the future. So for us, we went through a number of workshops. We worked very heavily with Patrick and Lynn. They were very close on the project. And it was great to have that kind of executive sponsor from a customer side. We went through every single little detail. We had a couple of issues, a couple of challenges where potentially we would have liked to have done things in a different way. But what stood out for me is the fact that, so both Patrick and Lynn have both said this was the opportunity to forget about what they had been doing and think about how they wanted to do it for the future to enable that scalability. So working with a customer so open-minded, that was a bit of a fresh air for someone like me. And I think, so I've been through it myself from a customer perspective, and I think having that kind of customer perspective view on things really helped with the process.
And I think that makes a massive difference. You've been through similar implementations yourself from the customer side, and yet you understand what those challenges are, but it also puts you in that position, right, where you can provide guidance. This is why we're suggesting to do it this way, and starting to challenge certain, you know, decisions that might have been made before the implementation. Start to challenge what's the actual benefit, where's the value in this. And I mean, can you tell us any more about how you
so
did that?
Yeah, no problem. So I think the different thing here was with Lynn, we didn't really need to challenge what they were suggesting or any of their processes, because again, they said to look at it as like a greenfield. We want to adapt our business to use the industry best practices and the best practices of the platform. So for us, there wasn't really a challenge. It was more about how these processes would, how Patrick and Lynn were then going to communicate certain process changes back within the business. But again, from my perspective, having the executive sponsors heavily involved in the project was key for me. So we've worked on a number of projects where we challenge, we ask, we prod, we poke, why do you do this? Questions, well, we've always done it that way. Okay, you have to ask more questions. So why do you need it like that? Lots of questions to ask and then propose a potential process change. However, again, sometimes that can be fairly difficult when you don't have that executive sponsor, that executive buy-in at that level. So again, I think this is where we've worked really well, is having both Patrick and Lynn, those executive stakeholders, involved in a lot of the project.
Yeah, makes a world of difference. And I think we're definitely going to touch a bit more on that later, I think, around how how hands-on, you know, Patrick and Lynn were and the difference that has made. But any other takeaways that you can share with us, Justin, you know, from a partner point of view?
So yeah, it's always, every company is different, and every culture from every company's culture is different. You'll always have people that are willing to accept changes. You'll have people that potentially may resist those changes, but ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to help the customer to get the best from their purchase. They pay a lot of money for the software. And then you need to ensure that we are there to help deliver that software so that the customers can gain benefit from that. And ultimately, we care about our customers. We want to make sure that they can scale. We want to make sure that they can add heads in the right department. So, for example, with Lynn and Patrick, they're pretty much a product company. So rather than adding heads in the back office where you may not see that benefit, we want to help them be able to automate processes, the back office processes, to ensure that the investment they can add in is in development and in sales.
Yeah.
Sorry, a bit of a long-winded answer there, Jamie. Apologies.
I think it's a good answer. It makes sense. I mean, maybe if we then ask the same question over to Patrick and Lynn as well, you know, any other sort of key takeaways from you in terms of you know, working together with PhiX and Justin and his team?
Yeah. No, for me, the key takeaway was that, I mean, the level of involvement is super important. I think it's already said a few times now, but for me, that's really crucial. So it feels like a super investment from an executive point of view. I mean, I spend days and days in it. But I'm quite convinced that actually saves so much time at the end of the road, because by being so closely involved, I can way better judge decisions and changes in the future. And because now if sales asks or ops ask, hey, I would like to change this flow because I think it's a bit too difficult, or I want to do this or that. Now I understand what it means through the process, and I can say yes or not, if it's a good decision or not. And so we kind of save a lot of implementation discussions afterwards. We save a lot of wrong decisions and changes that otherwise, if you are not deep enough and somebody says, I want to change that because it doesn't feel right, and you say, oh, yeah, if you work with it, probably you know. So, but now I can really say, I know it, so I'm quite sure that we should do it like this. So for me, it's really about the involvement part is for me super critical and was important as a key takeaway. I would do the same exactly again. And for me, again, also really treating the partner like a partner and not like an execution partner. So it's really like thinking along. They know the system, I know the business. Let's combine our knowledge to find something that the system fits the business. And because we know both sides, and then together we will find the solution, and not here, this is what I want, please execute. So that was for me also super critical.
Great. Yeah.
Right.
I think building on that, also like very strict scheduling with each other, regular check-ins, daily check-ins, so that you can play very, sorry, my voice, play very short on every issue, rather than having a lot of iterations and time go over it before anything pops up, is also been a key factor in our success.
It was having that close communication and like open channels and yeah, those regular discussions, right? Yeah, of course.
Indeed. Yeah, and there's most of the time not a clear yes, this is the road answer. And typically there are like 3 different options that you can do things, and then please make a decision. And then yeah, so I mean, we can take fast decisions if we are heavily involved, and that's, if you want to go so fast with the implementation, that's critical, of course.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned it was an overall solution as well. It wasn't, so you're implementing Sales Cloud, so the CRM, the CPQ, the billing, but it's all in one joined up solution for you. But there was another part of this, right, which was you're working with one of our ISV partners, one of our App Exchange partners, Financial Force, with regards to your supply chain management. So I don't know who'd be best placed, but can you tell us any more about your experience with that and how that worked in conjunction with that whole sort of CPQ and lead to ledger process?
Yeah, I think Lynn is probably the best place to, this is really back office related. So Lynn, I think you probably have the best view on that.
Sure. I think it's an overall view, right? So what you get is an end-to-end system that allows visibility from leads to cash, which means the moment it hits as Patrick says, the back office. We have full view over what orders are coming in, when are they going out. We have overview of inventory, stock, and how all of those things move, right? Which means we can pull reports and analyze things across all flows, which is very important and key to be able to do that. Having that visibility also in one singular system allows everybody to move faster, reduces workload, reduces time and effort, reduces human error and mistakes, given the system is set up to make sure from the moment you put something in all the way until you have cashed it out, that everything is looking together through inventory, etc.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, not only the back office is benefiting from that. So, like I said, for us, it's super important to give a super good customer experience towards our customers. And for example, now the salespeople can see when something is shipped, they get a tracking number automatically. Clients get visibility on what's happening. Our salespeople can see stock levels. So it's creating transparency across the whole company for customer support, for back office, for sales, and our customers. And that's super great. I mean, that was really like the winning combination. Yeah.
That's some fantastic answers. Thank you. Fabulous. I try and explain this as well a lot to to our customers, but hearing that from a customer who's so recently gone live, it's that's very rewarding for us. But speaking of which, when did you actually go live with the system? Yeah,
so I think if I now look back, I think in February we did the first pilot country. That was in France, in Europe. And I think we did a run for 3 or 4 weeks. And I just wanted to make sure that everything was working fine, because I didn't want to burn our solution by rolling it out globally and then still finding out a few small mistakes and then everybody would kind of bash the small mistakes, and then the system is burned. So I said, let's first roll out in one country. Let's make it a success. There were a few small issues. We fixed them in a few weeks' time. And then we launched region per region. And I think in 2 months' time, we were completely rolled out. I think so. I think we finalized end of May or something, that's the last country. Yeah, I think it was an amazing rollout. Yeah. And we did not come across big mistakes anymore. So that was at least the good news.
Excellent, excellent. So, and you're saying about you started with that one pilot country, but then it very rapidly rolled that out to all the other divisions or geographies. How was the user adoption? Did you find any difficulties in that, or how did you manage that?
Yeah, the user adoption was great on our side. So I think it has to. I think I need to think about it, but I think it's 2 reasons. I think it's because Lynn and myself were heavily involved, and so from a top-down perspective, we knew the process. I kind of explained the process to some salespeople myself. I kind of trained some people myself. So I could easily say this is the way to go, and I was really like expressing how I feel about the process, how good it is. I can really show how it works, and so people were convinced about it. And I could also tell them, like, if they came up with arguments why they would not like it, I can kind of counterbalance them, and because I know the system. And so from a top-down perspective, I think that went super fast and super well, but also from a bottom-up perspective, which I think is even more important. The user adoption was great because the salespeople immediately realized the benefits that they get from it. So they could see, like I already said, that they could see the inventory, they could see what they put in the system, they could see the catalog with the right pricings. And now, I mean, before we had Salesforce, they needed to open up, and we have different product lines, as they needed up different systems, different tools to kind of come to a code for a customer. Then there was totally invisibility about, okay, when is it going to be shipped? Is everything there? And so that was kind of a nightmare for the salespeople. And now, by using the system, it's only with a few clicks they can create the codes, and they see all the benefits and the things that happen afterwards. So, I mean, I think the sales guys are now really happy with the system, and so user adoption bottom up went, I think, even smoother than top down.
Excellent. I think a part of that was also the amount of time that was spent on training the people, right? Even by you, right? The amount of hours that were dedicated to really train the people on the platform, but also on the logic and the thinking around it, things that are outside of their core core role in the system, right? What happens after they submit quotes, etc. I think that has also been a very big factor in the success of the adoption.
I think then, so just pulling out a piece that you just said there. So the users having that understanding of the full end-to-end process and understanding why what they do is so important, and understanding the end goal. I think that is that's brilliant, because a lot of people just focus on their day job. This is what I do, that's what I do, I don't care what happens down the line. So I think you guys pulling that whole alignment over the top of it, I think that's brilliant. Genius.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, exactly. Having Patrick actually training the sales users as well is great to hear. But it's what we often find when it comes to this the lead to ledger area, quote to cash, is it is providing so much more back to the salespeople, so they can start to see the benefit of not just using it, but using their CRM properly. And we start to see behavioral shifts. They say, I understand now why I need to update this. And, you know, it's if we can help them to sell more, to sell faster, they get paid more, and everyone's happy, right? So that's why we normally see the fast adoption.
I think also, Jamie, also just sell more, earn more, but also means you can get your invoices out quicker. Patrick and Lynn are happy because they get paid earlier. You've got that whole end-to-end solution. So your invoices are less to be error prone because it's all come from the system. So again, it speeds up that whole cycle, improves your cash flow as well.
Yeah, and also customer satisfaction. So customers don't get wrong invoices. Customers get tracking numbers when things are shipped. Customers get transparency over when stock is available, etc. I mean, otherwise for the sales guys, it's a nightmare because the clients call to them or to our support desk if they have problems, and then of course they are not happy at that time. So now they don't have those kind of calls anymore, and that makes their life also way nicer. So it's always cooler to have nice conversations than have the difficult conversations, of course. So
that's great. And of course, yeah, cash flow. Yeah, that's obviously the lifeblood. It's very important. But you're now what, 4 months into having this up and running. We've discussed some of those benefits. Are we missing anything there? Are there any other obvious benefits, or maybe not so obvious benefits that you've started to see that you didn't expect to see, on top of what we've already discussed?
Maybe Lynn, from an operation point of view?
Yeah, so I think, yes, the benefits that I've seen are more practical. I think the reduction in workloads, the reduction in errors and human errors, the clear visibility on a global scale, not just a regional or a local scale, the ease with which we can pull data and analyze our figures, and of course, specifically, and that is key for us, is the automatic recurring billing, right? Where we continuously, without mistakes, can add our new parts to our clients, and the billing will automatically correct the next invoice. So it's a very, very smooth, time-reducing process.
Yeah. So that recurring. Yeah. Oh, sorry, you go, Patrick.
No, go ahead, Jimmy. So.
And I was just wondering, it's sort of how much time do you think is being saved then we're having that recurring or that automated billing process in place?
Yeah. No, I think we saved a lot across the company. So I think. I mean, if I need to add to Lynn, I think time gain was one of the biggest benefits. So, like I already said, so our sales guys needed to look in different systems to create the codes, which took them easily maybe half an hour to get the code right, because we do have some complex products and configurations before, but now it's just within a few minutes they can create the codes because the whole configuration is automatically done now, and based on the customer needs, we kind of the system now gives the correct configuration for this customer needs, so we can give immediately a way better service to our customers. And it's way easier for our sales guys. So we went down to a few minutes on the sales side, and then it goes to the back office after the order is submitted, and also there is only a few minutes of administration work anymore because the invoices goes automatically. The pick slips go automatically. Of course, you still need to go walk to the warehouse and to pick the items, but the administration part of it is so smooth and so fast. I think like and maybe 5-6 minutes across the whole end-to-end chain as administrative work is, I think, the end state. But I think it's not only, I mean, for me, it's not only about saving like hours of work across the whole chain. It's also, I think, even the biggest benefit maybe is like all the work afterwards, because in the past, because we did not have that system, a lot of mistakes happened because it was manual. And then if a client calls and there is a problem, it created so many meetings and so many people that needed to talk and find out what's wrong, to figure out the problem, to kind of restore the problem, find a solution. And so that's such a time waste, and we have zero now of that. And I think, that's a massive benefit. And I think, the last one is of course customer satisfaction. So like I said, the mistakes go together with customer satisfaction. So we eliminated the mistakes on our side, and the customer satisfaction went up massively. So
yeah, it's such a valid point in terms of getting you closer to that customer, because you've got the right data at the right points with the right people, internally. And we, of course, at Salesforce, there's a lot of discussions we have with customers around having that 360 view of the customer, and of course of the assets and so on. But it's very hard to achieve that 360-degree view if you take out all the revenue transactions, right? If you can't see what your contracts are, or your quotes, proposals, invoice, even credit notes, debit notes, it's getting that view. So when you speak to a customer, you immediately know this is where the customer's at, this is their experience, this is what they've purchased, and of course you can then see to their needs better. All great points. So what's next? I guess what's next? You've already done a lot in a very short space of time, of course, because you had to go. You had demands with a massively growing business. So what's the next plan in terms of your rollout?
Yeah. Now, so I think I see Salesforce as our ecosystem of our companies, or our heart of our company, system-wise. And we're kind of going to select a few new add-ons. And I think that's also the strength of Salesforce, because there are a lot of tools and applications that you can plug into Salesforce. And so one example is on the sales side or maybe on the billing side is, and the USA, it's a complex system of taxes based on each state. For example, you have a tool, Avalara, that can handle with all this kind of complex sales taxes, and it's just plug it into Salesforce. We want to do marketing automation flows, there are also tools that can be linked with Salesforce. Our own platform, so we also have a platform that we provide to our customers as a telematics solution. And I kind of want to link up our platform with Salesforce platform, so that if we give a certain type of licenses to a customer, that it automatically opens up in our platform, and that they talk with each other. That makes it even more streamlined. So a lot of different plans, and it's just adding stuff in around the ecosystem to make it a complete thing.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I think maybe if I just shift that back over to Justin as well, from your perspective, Justin, what would you say? Is there any advice you'd give Patrick and Lynn around other features, other solutions, other things they should think about expanding out their current solution with?
Sure. I mean, if we think about the lead to ledger journey, there's so much that fits within there. There's the CLM world. So if we're thinking about going through quoting, all of those legal conversations that have to be had on clauses and terms, you can have a CLM system in there. You can have your finance system actually on the platform. So, I mean, I could suggest so much to Lynn and Patrick. But what I like about Lynn and Patrick is they see the value of Salesforce. It's not just a sales tool. It can help with that whole lead to ledger process. And also, like you said, it gives you that 360 view on the customer. And what I've been impressed with, I've been in contact with Patrick since they've gone live. And the way Patrick makes use of Trailhead is amazing. So it's great having a CEO and a COO that are so involved, that like the platform, and actually are out there doing trails and learning. I find that amazing. So yeah, if I think Trailhead is a way forward for learning, but can also give you an eye for what is possible on the platform as well. So I expect to see some great movements forward with the GemOne platform.
Great. And Patrick, Justin seems impressed with, as am I, with your using Trailhead, our learning platform. It'd be great to hear if you've got any other thoughts around, your experience with Trailhead.
Yeah, no, I think it's an amazing tool. So because I mean, PhiX was an amazing team that explained a lot about Salesforce, etc. But for me, Trailhead was super easy to work with because I could at my own pace. I'm quite busy, and then in my free time, I could quickly also look a few trailheads. And for me, it's super important that I went through all these things because it is enriching my view. And I think by enriching my view, I can take better decisions. So now I learn you can also do that like this. And also Trailhead explains different things, and I can say, that could be interesting for our flow. So it kind of broadened my thinking of what is possible. And of course, then you can take the better decision. So I think, and I'm still looking today to Trailhead with 2 new things that are launched. You never know that something interesting. So I think it's an amazing tool, and it doesn't take a lot of time. You can do it at your own pace. It's you can click on it and you can see it. So there is no installation needed. So yeah, for me, this was really an amazing tool.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I see we're almost up against time. So just, I assume there's going to be, some people who've come onto this webinar who are going to be earlier in their journey. They might just be setting out on this. Is there any other advice from you, Lynn, Patrick, or Justin, that you could share with anyone who's at that early stage of their journey?
So from a partner perspective, I would always suggest that you forget about what you're currently doing, because if you're purchasing such a tool as CPQ or billing, you need to get the best out of it. So forget about what you're currently doing and think about what you're trying to achieve. Where can you save time? How can you improve? Where can you simplify? So from my perspective, I think that would be key. And I'm going to pass over to Patrick and Lynn from a customer perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have said the same, Justin. So that's already good. No, so I think what I would add is also, what I did, and maybe it's a bit of learning from myself, but I think what I learned is that I underestimated the testing part at the end. So I think I said we want to do a super fast implementation. So let's maximize the implementation time and minimize the testing time. And I think we only foresee 1 week from our side. Yeah, but that's just not enough. It takes a few weeks to kind of really test all the exceptions, and because then you need to do a few changes. So it's also take time for the testing phase. I think then, do a pilot in a country, test enough, and then launch it at scale. I think that's critical and take time for that. Yeah.
Great. So now, well, just to summarize that then, so it is look to the future, not necessarily trying to replicate what you've done in the past. It's save a bit of extra time, make sure you test it properly before you roll out, then you're going to get the better adoption. And and listen to, I guess it's listening to the partner, on guidance, what works, what's best practice and why. But we're up against time there. If there are any questions, we will be responding to those. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Lynn and to Patrick and to Justin for your time today. And yeah, that's great.
Thanks a lot
for having us.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.